Jacques Shore, a government affairs lawyer and trade specialist at Gowling WLG. Jacques, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's good to be with you.
We learned yesterday, too, and maybe this is, I think, what I want to get to engage your reaction to when you heard what the priorities are going to be for the U.S. administration. In particular, I think supply management and the dairy industry, which has been safely guarded by the federal government for many, many years. This goes back to the 70s. But what did you make the rest of these demands and what's going to hit the negotiating table next year?
Well, I think that it's not really much of a surprise that there would be a range of subjects that would need to be addressed. This is really the first serious opportunity to review CUSMA to determine how it can be a better trade arrangement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. With regard, let me just start off for a moment because dairy is very much a focus. For the United States, I mean, right now, they are guaranteed a tariff-free access for dairy products into Canada, which is equal to about 3.6% of the Canadian domestic market, dairy market. And that's not very significant when you see what they would like to actually be able to do. And right now, they've got a fairly high, it's a significantly high tariff for anything over that quota. So that's something that's worthwhile addressing. But I think that there are Canadians also that are recognized, farmers that have done well, and we want stability for sure for our farmers, but recognize that this is an area that actually can be addressed, perhaps by increasing quota. No one's actually talking about dismantling our supply management arrangement, and that's something I think that's positive to look at. Clearly, when we look at the issues with respect to recently, the alcohol restrictions in the provinces, this is a serious concern. When you look at the fact that bourbon is not on the shelves of Canada, in Canada, in several of its provinces, Ontario, Quebec, as examples, that is obviously hurting them. When we look at other areas that have come up also on Canadian digital legislation, which has been a concern, Online Streaming Act is a concern as well. These are elements that may find their way into discussions and the negotiations. But these are positive things. And I think one of the good things we can take away from this is the fact that we're talking, we're negotiating. We're really starting to roll up our sleeves and to talk about these things. U.S. Trade Representative Greer Jameson told Congress, frankly, that CUSMA has been successful to a certain degree. It needs some tweaking, but I think that's a good start. Last month, it was not long ago that we heard labor and business in Congress making reference to the fact that CUSMA not just ought to continue, but must continue. And I think those are things for us to be heartening in recognizing the value of that and then moving on and being able to find ways for us to strengthen this relationship. We are very fortunate to have the relationship we have with the United States. We just have to make this right.
It's interesting, too, because, yeah, that point where American businesses and industry said, we need this agreement. This agreement is good for American businesses, too. But let me put to you the fact that it feels like, in particular about the alcohol and the booze, that premiers have gotten the U.S.'s attention, and they only put those bans on U.S. alcohol in place as a result of tariffs that came from south of the border. And so it feels like one of those measures is something that is actually working when it comes to getting the U.S. administration's attention.
Excellent point, because no doubt they're getting calls from governors and mayors and others that are obviously feeling the pinch in how can I say, diminishing the spirit into Canada from the United States. I think that, look, these are steps that had been taken. I think it demonstrates, perhaps with a little bit of a flex of the muscle, that, look, we do have an effect on the U.S. economy in particular areas, and we're showing that. Look, on something like aluminum, our Prime Minister made it very clear the other day that just by virtue on aluminum, by us actually being able to make aluminum here in Canada, we effectively save 10 Hoover dams of electricity. Now that's pretty significant when you think of the energy requirements for something like that. We can also look to other products, whether it's steel, in some instances also dealing, in the auto sector, being able to improve that. Now those aren't necessarily, those are sectoral. They're not necessarily in the context of specifically the CUSMA negotiations, of which almost 93% of our trade takes place in that. And again, that's why we are the envy of the world, because there are no tariffs with regard to that. But it means that we are at the table and we are focusing on this. And the other good news is, I think that we've heard the last few days, that Mexico will be part of these negotiations. We are looking to, CUSMA Chapter 2. I mean, if you look at NAFTA, that was Chapter 1, CUSMA Chapter 2, we're into Chapter 3. So here we are. We're in the ball game, about to actually address. I guess batters are up, and they're starting to work on the game plan.
Yeah, and maybe a little cautious optimism from you too, Jacques, which I think many people will be excited to hear. Jacques Shore, government affairs lawyer, trade specialist at Gowling. Thanks so much, Jacques, for this. Appreciate it.
Pleasure speaking with you, Matt. All the best.